Caution is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a no run-through review for Raiders of the North Sea. So, caveat, before you get into this, and before I give my opinions, and you guys probably hate me, I have not played this game with any of the expansions, so this is just base game, as it is, nothing extra, but I know what the expansions do. So, Raiders of the North Sea is I'm kind of on a mixed bag, mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about it because it does a lot of things that I really like in a worker placement and then others that I don't like. So, as per in my discussions, let's talk about things that I don't like. In Raiders of the North Sea, you are basically, obviously, pillaging Vikings, trying to, you just get points, get a bunch of points. Well, in this game, it does a really interesting mechanic of worker placement that I want in a bunch of other worker placements. This is where I'm getting that mixed feeling. So, what I don't like about this game, there are two things. One is the biggest one. It's the fact that the resources that are available on the board, not the Valkyrie, but the gold, the iron, and the cattle are limited. And what I mean by that is, like, when you raid or when you pillage, you have to have a certain number of crew, which is fine. You have to have a certain number of provisions, which is also fine. And then once you do that, you go there, you grab all the stuff there, and now you have that. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy, but except if people happen to go into the spot that have all the stone, or they're going to the stone and you don't really realize that oh hey, I don't have any stone, you can't really get any. Now there are very few crew cards that allow you to grab resources from the supplier, from the discard area, but you have to be lucky enough to get those. So it's like, whenever you are, because there is no limit to those resources. You can only have, there's a rule of 8, you can only have 8 cards, 8 coins, and 8 provisions. Plunder, which are the resources I just mentioned, the gold, the stone, or the gold, the iron, and the cattle, one person can hoard all of that the entire game. They're not gonna, because unless others aren't just, pillaging, which is the whole point of the game. Like, they're going to hold on to that. And what sucks about that is, within the town, the only action that you can really do, there's actions to do cattle, which allow you to turn in for, I can't remember what they call it, but basically they're endgame points. Or you can use stone, god damn it, not stone, iron, to increase your total strength. Like, there's a track that you turn those in, or you can turn in 2 coins to increase it by 1, but if you turn in 2 iron, or 1 iron, you increase it by 2. It's like, okay. So if you happen to not get any iron the entire game, which, yes, you could argue, well, that's just your fault, but except there's definitely better places that others could get to before you'd be like, I'm going to grab the place with the most iron, because the way the places to plunder work, the resources that are there are all different. So it could be spread out evenly. It could be spread out, hey, this one spot has a bunch of iron and someone's going to go there before you, because turn order doesn't change. So if you're going last, you're kind of screwed because, oh, you all were able to pillage before me, I just have to sit back and watch. It's not like, okay, I go, you go, you go, you go. Okay, now it's, you're first player. And then it goes around, oh, you're first player. It doesn't do that, you just continue around the board. So that was a big problem for me, and it's not really the fact that, yes, someone can hoard all that, it's the fact that there's no way to exchange for those resources. I can't go to a spot in the village that says, oh, turn in, 3 cattle for a gold, or turn in 2 silver for an iron. There's none of that. All the resources you get, the only way to do is, like, not even that, there's a spot for the silversmith, which you just go there with a pawn or with a worker and get silver. Like, it's like, why can't I do that with the other resources? Why can't I go there and get, there's a spot you can discard 2 cards to get a gold. Why is iron so difficult to get, even though that's what increases your strength, which helps you, defeat the later on. So that was kind of a pain. For me, like I didn't like the fact that there was really no variety in the fact that or of resources, which are in a lot of other worker placements. Um, the second thing about this game is I feel like as the base game, it gets very samey, meaning because like there's three well there's four different places to pillage. The very first thing that everyone's going to get to do is the harbor, because what's really cool, and this is the thing I do like about the game, so I'm kind of changing it, is there are three different types of workers. There's a black worker, a gray worker, and a white worker, and they all do different things, kind of. So if you go to the silversmith with a black worker, you get 3 silver. If you go there with a white or a gray worker, you get 2 silver. So depending on where you go, you need a specific type of worker to reap more benefits. But later on, so only the black workers can go to the harbor, which is what everyone starts with. So obviously everyone has to go there. Then, once you go there, you take the pillager spots have the gray workers and white workers. Then once you take that worker, and then because whoever you pillage with, they stay there. So eventually, all black workers will be gone, and then they'll be replaced with gray. And then gray and white workers will kind of intermingle, and then eventually it'll kind of lead to just white workers. So once everyone does the harbor, then they're able to go up to I think it was outposts and temples, and then fortresses. And fortresses were the hardest once again. They're the ones that give you the most points. Not any more resources or anything like that, but they just give you more points for successfully raiding them. But since you have to go in this progression of, okay, because you can't skip. It's like, no, I'm not going to do the harbor. I'm going to save up and wait to go to. Well, I guess you technically could. It wouldn't be in your best interest, though, because you could technically just save up and do all this stuff and wait for someone else to do a harbor, and then grab the white worker, and then, aha, okay, now I can go, or gray worker, whatever, then you can just jump ahead. But in all reality, you're going to be going harbor, outposts, temples, then fortress. Like, it's just going to go in that progression. And that's the way the kind of board is laid out as well, is in this series of you're going to go this way. Everyone's going to go this way, and that's that. And that, to me, is incredibly boring. To be like, well, oh, yep, everyone goes for the harbor again. Oh, yeah, like once you've played the game, I would say 2, maybe 3 times, you're like, okay, that's the game forever. And that's just the base game. Like, I want to reiterate that because you might, well, the expansions do this, and it's like, that's fine, I'll get to that in a sec. So those were my 2 biggest complaints about this game. Maybe a third one, that turn order actually is a factor, because you do get all your points from raiding. What I really like about this game, and this is kind of where you'll have to judge, because it is kind of more of a gateway worker placement, they do this really interesting worker mechanic, is that when you place a worker, everyone starts with a black worker. When you place a worker, you do that action of the spot. Then you take a worker from some other building, and you pull that off, and you do the action of that spot as well. So you're doing 2 actions, but you're placing and taking and doing these actions, and that is so cool and strategic, because 1, you can't place someone and take them off on the same turn. So what you're doing is you're essentially not really blocking, because you don't really block people. Like most worker placements, where it's like, I'm going to go there, haha, now you can't go there until we all recall our workers. Nope, it's like, okay, well fine, you place someone there, then I will just pull them off there and still do the same action. So if I went to the silversmith, I get 3 silver, then I can take off of the, what's the other one? The longhouse, and do an action there. And then you don't block anyone. Now, it does lead to some interesting combinations, because there are times where it's like someone will take off the spot before you, and you're like, well, crap, I really wanted to place something there and then pull off somewhere else, or if there are two spaces you want to go to, but there was a worker there, and now both of them don't have a worker, it's like, well, crap, I can't place and then place again, I have to place one of them and take somewhere else. So it's very interesting. And whenever I mentioned, okay, you could hold off on doing the same harbor and wait, it's because if someone has a white worker, they have to leave it. At some point, they will have to put a gray worker down and then take somewhere else. So now, if you're after them, you can take the gray worker, or you can place your black worker somewhere and pull the gray worker. Now you have a gray worker to be like, oh, now I can go and attack an outpost because it requires a gray worker. I think that is insanely smart, insanely intuitive, because I don't know if any worker placement does that. Other worker placements, like Charterstone, for example, they do a bump mechanic, which was interesting and new. It was like, oh, okay, no, there's no blocking each other, like, at all. We can all go to the same spot, but if I go to a spot that you're at, you get your worker back, and you might have been ready to recall, so it's like, how much do I want to go there to give you an extra turn? That's how you make worker placement stuff interesting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, okay, I'm going to go here, and then no one can go there. Then we're all going to place our workers, then we're all going to recall. Like Stone Age, something like that. Nothing wrong with that, but that can get stale after a while. Raiders of the North Sea made that, place take thing really cool, and I like that a lot. The Viticulture did something different where they had a Grande worker, where it's like standard worker placement, but your Grande can go anywhere, and that's kind of like made people think, oh, how can we make worker placements different? So Raiders of the North Sea is kind of a generic Viking game. Funny enough, my friend was like, man, you must hate Viking games, because I give him crap about not liking Champions of Midgard. Granted, I've only played that game at 2 players. I'm sure I would like it with more. But this one, we were all like, I mean, yeah, okay. Yeah, you did that. But there's other things in here that I do like. I mentioned the 3 plunder, which were, gold, iron, and cattle, which were used for different purposes. But there's a 4th one, which are called Valkyrie, and they're these black circles, essentially. Whenever you go, so you have to hire crew, which comes from a deck of crew cards, and the art is fantastic. We really like the art. It's very bright, very pretty. Component-wise, everything is great. The base game came with metal coins, which I thought was amazing, because not most games, like the last one I thought that wasn't a Kickstarter game was Rattle Battle Grab the Loot, which came with metal coins. So I thought that was awesome. But so you have a deck of crew cards which have unique abilities, and they also have strength and stuff like that, and you have to hire them with the silver. And I really like that. So you would hire them based off a spot you can go, and you'd have your crew. And because you need a certain number of crew and provisions to be able to attack a spot, and then you discard the provisions, and your crew has a certain number of strength and abilities. And the crew actually has 2 abilities. One is kind of like, if you have them like in your crew, some of them are like, hey, get an extra point for attacking a harbor. They have a secondary ability, which is if you go to, I think it's like the town hall, where you discard them and you use their secondary ability, which is like take a provision from some other player, or that's just one of them. And I thought that was interesting. You had the variety with the different crew members. But whenever you go in and raid a spot, if it has a Valkyrie token, you have to kill off one of your crew. And some of them were like, if this dies in a raid, put it back into your hand. Or if this dies, another player has to kill one of their crew, and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And then if you, whenever you took a Valkyrie, you went up on a Valkyrie track, and this was another way you can get a bunch of points. So, and there's a limited, number of Valkyrie on the board, and that's actually an end game condition, is that if all the Valkyries are gone, you finish off the round, and then that's the game. But if you have more crew die, you go up this track, and I think if you do 7, if you happen to kill all the Valkyrie, then you will get like an extra 15 points at the end of the game, which is a lot, because like there are a bunch of points to get, but it's not like incremental, like it's not like everyone's getting 15 points. That is a lot at end game. And then obviously your armor rating will give you a few points up, but not as much as 15. Now, granted, there's a risk reward because you have to kill off a crew member, so it might it might push you back a little bit, but move you up for endgame. So there is a race to kind of get those Valkyries killed, because if me and another person, we were both going for that victory condition, I just happened to be able to go before him and have the stuff to raid a spot that had 2 Valkyrie, which killed 2 of my people, but I jumped up twice, and he wasn't able to do that. So raids are pretty interesting. I kind of like it. It's very simple. Like I mentioned, crew, provisions, and then they have a strength number, which some of them will say, hey, roll 2 dice, and the dice range from 2 to 5. So you have your crew numbers. Top left, you have their strength. You add your whatever shield or armor bonus is from that you've raised with iron that no one's able to get, and then you roll dice. Okay, and so let's say you roll really well. You roll 2 5s. You add 10. Let's say you had 20 total, 23 because you had 3 armor, and then the 10. So you have 33. You look at that spot that you attacked, and this is something I really like. And it's like, okay, if you got 15, you get 6 points. If you got 22 or higher, you get 10 points. And that's kind of how that works. So how well you rated, you got more points for it. I did really like that. Like, this isn't a bad worker placement game by any means. It's just, I felt it was kind of lackluster, because people are like, this is the best worker placement game ever. And I disagree. I was able to look at my collection and think of multiple worker placement games I'd rather play than this one. Now, I looked up the expansions and what the expansions did, and I will say, if I had the expansions, this game would probably be fantastic. One adds like a mead hall and stuff like that, and you can go on quests for people, which allow you to get, another way to get resources, another way to get points. That expansion alone, I think, would fix the negatives I have here. But as you guys know, if you've watched this channel enough, I don't think expansions should fix a game. Like, it's not like, and granted, that's just fixing it for me. So it's like, some people may think this is great and the expansions are just more, but it's like, for me, my problems are fixed by an expansion, and it's like, I have to spend more money to be able to enjoy your game initially. I don't want to do that. Now, that's just one expansion they have. There's 2. And the other one, it adds, like, I think it adds Jarls and, like, another way to raid. So both of those expansions, which get you more points, by the way, with the Jarls and stuff like that, those 2 expansions plus this, I think would make the game, like, more gamery, and open it up a lot more, where one person can't hoard all the iron. It's like, okay, fine, you keep raiding whatever and getting that stuff. I'm going to do these quests and be able to get the same resources that I need. Granted, there's still no exchanging that I know of, but at least you're not hosed by just turn order. And, oh, I was going to go there and get the iron, but you went there and now I can't do it. So, that's pretty much it. If I had to, so on a scale of 1 to 10, the base game alone, I'm going to give a 6.5. So, not quite a 7, because I'm not keeping this game in my collection, because I have a bunch of other worker placements I'd rather play, versus that won't get stale after a couple plays. I don't have to buy expansions to make them better. So a 6.5, it's a little bit above average. I think that with the place take mechanic, I think that is amazing. That's probably why it's not just an average worker placement for me. Everything else is pretty generic, but I really do like that worker mechanic. So 6.5 out of 10. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.